Namaste, Sabhaye Namaha. Welcome to you all. It's been after a little gap, we are having this beautiful, wonderful presentation by Girish. It is said that our true happiness already exists on a spiritual level. It's a matter of pulling it into the physical world. I think this is the best way to pull it into our lives. Listening and connecting to higher knowledge through the enlightening and inspiring presentations by someone like Girish Muralidhar, who is so wonderfully tuned to devotion and is full of erudition and dedication. I wish to introduce him, a brief introduction. Girish Muralidhar is an HR person by occupation and is based out of Bangalore, having lived in Mumbai, Chennai and Delhi. He discovered his love for temples and reconnected with his faith via his family and his then girlfriend and now wife more than a decade ago. He hopes one day to visit and write about the 275 Padalpitra Sthalams of Shaivism along with other important temples across the Indian subcontinent while continuing to visit his favorite place over and over again, Tilai Chidambaram. Welcome, Girish Muralidhar. So, I wish Girish's parents to light the lamp as the auspicious beginning, after which I will present a poem of mine, and then Srimati Lalita will render a slokam on Radharajeshwari deity as a wonderful beginning. There is match. You want to come? You both do. That's fine. Thank you so much. So, as a prayer again, I wish to present a poem on Lord Shiva, which I wrote for a poetry festival on the theme, The Fire Agni. This is the published version. Fire in his form, reposed on the throne in his chosen place, a mountain of ice. Reposed on the throne in his chosen place, a mountain of ice, he meditates and loses himself in his own self, Sat Chit Ananda, enduring unchanging state of bliss, a fire of absolute truth and consciousness. He has the fire of a heart with flames of love for his beloved Uma, flames that can never be snuffed out in any coming eons. He is Shiva. As an effulgent self, sitting with Chimudra under a banyan tree, he holds a flame in his upper left arm, a fire of knowledge that destroys avidya, ignorance and arrogance. He is the very form of awareness. He has the fire-spewing third eye that burns the falsity and flaws of life. He sets ablaze the mountains of sins and fuels hopes to dance through life. He is the cosmic dancer, moving in tune with drum beats and rhythmic steps surrounded by a ring of flames, matter, space and time, in an eternal cycle of annihilation and regeneration. It never stops. His fiery dance, the burning, the raging, a celestial inferno, a sulphurous flame carrying the power of Om, all through his form. He is the effulgent deity, Shiva, the Agni Murti. Thank you all. Now I request Srimati Lalita to come and render her Shlokam.
वन्दे मातरम् अम्बिका वन्दे मातरम् अम्बिका वाणी रमा सेविता वन्दे मातरम् अम्बिका वाणी रमा सेविता वाणी रमा सेविता कल्याणी कल्याणी कमनीय कल्पलतिका कैलासनाथ प्रिया कल्याणी कमनीय कल्पलतिका कैलासनाथ प्रिया कमनीय कल्पलतिका कैलासनाथ प्रिया वेदांत प्रतिपाद्यमान विभव वेद्वन् मनोरंजिनी वेदांत प्रतिपाद्यमान विभव वेद्वन् मनोरंजिनी वेद्वन् मनोरंजिनी श्री जग्रांकित रत्नपीठ निलया श्री राजराजेश्वरी श्री जग्रांकित रत्नपीठ निलया श्री राजराजेश्वरी श्री राजराजेश्वरी
Thank you so much. You got so carried away. What is that? I invite Girish Muralidhar to present his talk and his presentation. Light spectra. Okay, slideshow will be there. No, as he says, Girish, what is it? To be into the lights also.
Visible. If it's visible for everybody, then I think that's fine.
The fonts, words come then we come.
No, I'm fine. No, it's good. It's good. I have moved this to this one. हर नमः पार्वती पतये हर हर महादेव गोपिका जीवन स्मरणं गोविन्दा गोविन्द शोषणं भवसिन्धोश्च प्रापणं सारसम्पदः यस्य पादोदकं सम्यक् तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः कुण्डलीकृतनागेन्द्रं खण्डेन्दुकृतशेखरं पिण्डीकृतमहाविघ्नं दुण्डिराजं नमाम्यहम् नमस्ते शारदा देवी काश्मीरपुरवासिनी त्वामहं प्रार्थये नित्यं विद्यादानं च देहि मे ऊर्ध्वस्थिताभ्यां करपङ्कजाभ्यां गांगेय पद्मे ददति मदस्तात् वराभये सन्दततीं कराभ्यां नवामि देवीं अखिलाण्डपूर्वां श्रीहरे नमः। नमः सभाभ्यः सभापति। Bhagavan has bestowed his anugraham by bringing us together in this Kamalaalayam Sabha. Ambika Auntie, Anant Uncle and Krishna have been very kind in having me over once again. It is also a great matter of joy for me personally that my parents, Srimati Geeta Muralidhar and Shri Aleman Muralidhar are here, as are some very close friends, other colleagues, acquaintances, neighbors, devotees, and everybody else who have made it here today. The Kamalaalayam Sabha, a name and city very closely associated with Bhagavan through his Anugraham, becomes the place for us to understand a little bit more about his Leela in the Upakaram of holy men associated with Thiruvanaikovil. Ambika Auntie in the Upodghata Kavita mentioned Shiva as destroyer of ignorance. And it is a very fitting epithet because Thiruvanaicovil's other name is Jnana Bhumi. That is the Bhumi from which Jnanam itself comes up, and it is the Bhumi of Vedantam, and it is the Bhumi of Advaitam. Lalitaji also in her Upodghata Kriti very beautifully mentioned it as Shri Chakrangi Ratnanga Peetha Nilayam, if I am not mistaken. And that aptly describes Ambal, Jagannatha, Akhilandeshwari, who resides in Thiruvanaikovil itself. Through Bhagavan's blessings over the past year or more, this Sabha has blessed me abundantly, and the blessings of Ambika Auntie and Anant Uncle have also been there. In the past 3 times that I have come here, I have had the good fortune of speaking about a Sabha, that is Chidambaram, a Nagaram, which is Tiruvarur, a Achalam or a hill, that is Thiruvannamalai. And today, Bhagavan's Anugraham comes together to give me this very great opportunity to speak about an Aranyam or a forest. And the older name of Thiruvanaikovil used to be Gajaranyam or Samajatavi, a name very lesser known because we've heard it as Thiruvanaikovil. So Gajaranyam remains a name which remains hidden away in the Padma Puranam. Bhagavan has also chosen to bring us together in the Kartika Masam, the last few days which are remaining. And Bhagavan has also chosen to bring us together one day after Kala Bhairavashtami, in a few days before the onset of Margari Masam or Dhanur Masam. So every Kshetra Puranam, Itihasam or narration in Sanatana Dharma brings with it a few ground rules. The first is the root of the narration, which in the case of Sanatana Dharma is always Veda Moola Pramanam. That is, everything emerges from the Vedas itself. The second is the premise of Nahi Nindad Nyayam, which means it is a phrase which is invoked to mention that when one specific form of Parabrahman is worshipped, no other form of Parabrahman gets insulted or denigrated in any manner. So by recounting a story which speaks about the Mahatmyam of Shiva, or Shiva is praised, Mahavishnu or Ambal do not get denigrated. And by recounting a story of Mahavishnu's Leelas, neither Shiva, Devi, nor any other deity get denigrated in any manner. The third are the Puranas and the Upapuranas. Each of these have been narrated by Vedavyasa himself. And Vedavyasa is said to be an avatara swarupam of Mahavishnu. And he is also said to be a swarupam of Bhagavan. And we know this because of the shloka, Achatura Vadano Brahma, Dvibahu Raparo Harihi, Afala Lochana Shambuhu, Bhagavan Badarayanaha. That is, Vedavyasa himself is Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva. He is also recounted in the shloka in the Vishnu Sahasranamam which says, Vyasaya Vishnu Rupaya, Vyasa Rupaya Vishnave. And it is through Vedavyasa's Puranas that we know today the Sthala Puranam of various kshetras, Chidambaram, Tiruvarur, Tiruvannamalai, Ayyarmalai, Ingoimalai, and Gajaranyam or Thiruvanaikovil as well. And there is another shlokam which says, Ashtadasha Purananam Karta Satyavati Sutaha That is, the 18 Puranas are composed by the son of Satyavati, that is, Vedavyasa himself. The fourth concept relevant for today's presentation is the concept of Aranya or Vana. The loosely translated term in English which we would use would be forest, sometimes grove. The forest, at least in Western civilization, is considered to be the edge of humanity, beyond which the rule of humanity does not always apply. But we see it a little differently. The forest is also said to be a place where Bhagavan resides. And in the Sri Rudram, a prayer in the Yajurvedam which is very dear to Shiva, Bhagavan is known by the name Vanyaya, that is, he who resides in the forest and he who dwells and moves around in the forest. The last is on waters and rivers. We are a country which accords the status of gods and goddesses to our rivers and waters because of the nourishing ability that it has. The Rig Veda holds that water is the cure for all ailments. Apaha sarvasya bheshajaha. That is, water is the medicine for all ailments. The Atharva Veda has a very famous shloka which we hear very often in pujas. That is, Shamno Devi Ravishtaya Apo Bhavantu Pitaye Shamyor Avishravantunaha. That is, may all good things in Devi manifest in this water and may it refresh us and bring cooling feelings to us. Another famous prayer from the Rig Veda is the Apam Prashnam, which venerates water as the giver of vitality, life, and our prayer towards it is to give us life in return. Water is also an element associated with Mahavishnu. While in the Upodghata Kavita that Ambika auntie mentioned today, she manifests and mentions Shiva as the fiery one, water is said to be primarily associated with Mahavishnu because we know Mahavishnu manifests Anantashayanam on Kshirasagaram. And yet, this very water is also deeply associated with Thiruvanaikovil, as is the form of Mahavishnu who resides in a temple very close to Thiruvanaikovil and Gajaranyam. And on our rivers, needless to say, there are various suktas, there are various prayers which have been composed that praise them. The most famous one which we know and we say during any puja, which would be Gange cha Yamune chaiva Godavari Saraswati Narmade Sindhu Kaveri Jalayasmin Sannidhim Kuru. That is, we invoke the 7 rivers to manifest in a Kamandala or a Kumbha which has water which is stable there. Another lesser known shloka towards the Kaveri river is Sahyadrija Mahapunya Kaveriti Mahanadi Saptavimsha Mukha Prokta Sarvabhishta Pradayini Tattiraha Swargadaschaiva Brahma Vishnu Padapradaha. That is, with 27 mouths, the Kaveri emerges from the Sahyadri hills and she is the bestower of the feet of Brahma and Vishnu, and to that Kaveri I offer my namaskarams. So it is the confluence of a forest and a river, that is Gajaranyam and Kaveri, which forms a considerable part of my talk today. And with the blessings of elders in this Sabha, I would now like to begin my narration. So our story for today takes birth in the Padma Puranam. Now, the narrations in Sanatana Dharma always begin from any Punya Kshetram, Kailasam, Vaikuntham, Sri Rangam, Kanchipuram, or any other place. This narration begins from a place known as Naimisharanyam, that is modern day Neemsar in Uttar Pradesh. And in Naimisharanyam, Ugrasharva Shrauti Maharishi, or Suta Pauranika as we know him, a disciple of Vedavyasa, is seated with many Maharishis. And Suta Maharishi then narrates a conversation between Parameshwara and Nandikeshwara. Usually conversations are between individuals. But the foundation of our faith is conversations between Bhagavan and another chosen individual or another Swarupam of Bhagavan. So in Kailasam, Nandikeshwara and Ambal, both of them plead to Bhagavan and tell him to speak of one particular kshetra on the earth which is beautiful to look at, is sacred, is radiant, and the smaranam of it destroys all sins. And to this, Bhagavan begins the narration by saying that south of the Kaveri, Punyanadi, Mahanadi, Kaveri, south of the Kaveri is an island, which is a Jnana Bhumi, which on seeing it rids a person of all their sins. And Bhagavan also speaks about how the Panchamahabhutas, that is the five elements that we know, earth, fire, wind, water, Akasha, the Ashta Dikpalakas, the 8 lords of each of our cardinal directions, and the Shad Ritus, that is the 6 seasons, and all the Devis and Devatas within the Hindu pantheon go to worship Bhagavan there. And Bhagavan begins narrating how Devatas themselves established 9 Tirthams inside of Gajaranyam or Thiruvanaikovil. And Bhagavan begins the narration of how he manifests in a physical form in that place itself. So Bhagavan's narration begins with the mention of a devotee whose name is Jambu Maharishi. So we know the Jambu fruit, and we know a shlokam which says Ganapati holds the Jambu Phala or the Jambu fruit in his hand. So this Maharishi's name is Jambu Maharishi. Jambu Maharishi has been for centuries and crores of years been meditating below a Jambu tree. Now as he is meditating, suddenly the fruit of the Jambu tree falls in his hand. And many of you would have seen a Jambu tree. The fruit is always dark in color. This fruit is white in color. And Jambu Maharishi realizes that this is something which is very special and unique. So then he thinks, I will not eat this. I will go and give this to Parameshwara. So Jambu Maharishi takes that fruit, goes all the way to Kailasha with that fruit. And very lovingly, he offers that fruit to Parameshwara. Parameshwara eats the fruit. And after eating the fruit, Parameshwara spits out the seed. As he immediately spits out the seed, Jambu Maharishi picks up the seed and eats it himself. And after eating this, Jambu Maharishi realizes that the branches of a tree and all the parts of a tree are beginning to sprout from him. And when he realizes this is happening to him, he is overjoyed because he has consumed something which Bhagavan has consumed as well. And seeing his devotion overflowing, Parameshwara tells him, go to Gajaranya and meditate there. And Jambu Maharishi is a great bhakta of Parameshwara. So he goes to Gajaranya, finds a place for himself and meditates. Crores and crores of years have passed and he has continued meditating. And later, Bhagavan realizes that very frequently and very often, the world needs to be reminded how to do puja. Which is why in the Bhagavad Gita itself, Bhagavan himself says, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkratam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. That means in order to re-establish dharma, I will keep coming again and again. And Bhagavan Parameshwara also does this. He takes the Amshavataram of Adisankara and he comes and teaches us and he re-establishes dharma. He takes the Amshavataram of Appaya Dikshar and he comes. But in this situation, he waits. He sends Ambal instead. And Bhagavan then tells Ambal, go to Gajaranyam and go to where Jambu Maharishi is and pray to me over there. So Ambal reaches there and there are 9 Pushkarinis inside of Gajaranya. There is a very specific Pushkarini over there by the name Brahma Pushkarini. So Ambal purifies herself, performs her Nitya Karmas, collects the water from the Brahma Pushkarini and goes towards the tree which is Jambu Maharishi waiting and meditating. Something very interesting happens here. The Shubha Muhurtam to do the Nitya Shiva Puja is about to go away. So now Ambal has water in her hand and she has to wet her feet as part of her Nitya Karma Anushtana. So Ambal in a hurry places the cup water from the Brahma Tirtham below the tree where Jambu Maharishi is waiting and through her Yoga Maya makes it manifest as a Shivalinga. But she is running out of time. She has to begin the puja right away. And at this moment, She looks at Parameshwara in the form of the Shivalinga and says, Prabhu, I cannot fall behind on my puja. It is dharma that I uphold. It is dharma that I manifest, and you are Dharmamurti. You must show me a way. And Prabhu, Parameshwara, and his Mandahasam smiles, and immediately the ground on which Ambal stands suddenly becomes wet and water sprouts out from there. And that water is not ordinary water which comes from any place. It is the living essence of every single river and every single water body, not just from India, but around the world. Manasarovara, the Chakshu River, which is currently in Afghanistan or beyond Afghanistan, the 7 rivers in India, Kshipra Nadi, every single river, every single water body manifests as the water which is making Ambal's feet wet. And she immediately has the opportunity to begin her puja. And Ambal begins her puja, and Jambu Maharishi then grows as a greater and larger tree. And as he becomes a larger tree, he then gives cover to the Shivalinga. And this picture very beautifully depicts that. Ambal is here offering Shiva Puja, Jambu Maharishi is here, and the tree has sprouted from his kapalam. And as Ambal completes her prayers, Parameshwara manifests in front of her. And he says, because this Punya Kshetram has been made holy by a Shivalingam made by Ambal, I will reside here forever. And I will offer all 4 forms of mukti that any devotee of mine would reach out to me for. Mukti comes in 4 parts. Salokyam, that is to be, say, live like Bhagavan. Samipyam, to be close to Bhagavan. Sarupyam, to look like Bhagavan. Sayujyam, to merge with Bhagavan. And Bhagavan says, I will give all of these 4 muktis to whoever comes and worships me here in Gajaranyam Thiruvanaikovil. And this Shivalingam, we all know Shivalingams are usually established. In some cases, they are Swayambhu. In some cases, human beings establish them. In some cases, Maharishis establish them. This is one of the few Shivalingas in the world which Ambal establishes through her Yoga Maya. And now the Shivalingam gets a name for itself. Because it is in Gajaranyam, it gets the name Gajaranyeshwara. Karivanam is another name because Kari is another name for elephant. So it also gets the name Karivaneshwara. Because it is made out of water, and water is said to be Amritam in our Vedas, it also gets the name Amriteshwara. And because there is also the tapas of Jambu Maharishi, and it is below a Jambu tree, it gets the name Jambukeshwara, Jambunatheshwara, Jambulinga, Jambupati. So Bhagavan has come and taken residence in Gajaranyam. He was always there, but he now has a physical form. And now Ambal also chooses to manifest in the same kshetram over here. So when Ambal had first come to Gajaranyam on Parameshwara's bidding, Brahma had seen her there. And Brahma worshipped her there and very reverentially referred to her as Akhilandam, that is the womb of the cosmos and the Ishwari of the Akhilandam. And we usually hear the phrase Akhilandakoti Brahmanda Nayaka, which is a name associated very famously with Tirupati Balaji. The same Padma Puranam posits Ambal as the Ishwari of the entire Akhilandam, and hence she gets the name Akhilandeshwari. As per the Sri Vidya Sampradayam and also the Shakta Sampradayam, one would find 4 deities supporting the asanam, and there is also another Rupam of Bhagavan which is here. So as per the Sri Vidya Sampradayam and also the Shakta Sampradayam, Brahma, Vishnu, Rudra and Ishvara are the 4 legs which support it. Sadashiva is said to be the footrest or the backrest of Swami and Ambal over here. And Lalita Tripura Sundari, Parabhattarika and Mahakameshwara are said to be the ones who reside in the center of the Sri Chakram and also the central and the highest point of the Mahameru. So this is a little bit about Swami, this is a little bit about Ambal, this is a little bit about a very specific abharanam which Ambal wears in order to bless her devotees abundantly. And these are part of the larger Thiruvanaikovil or Jambukeshwara Rakhilandeshwari temple complex. The temple is very large. And the temple has also had a very hoary and a very beautiful and blessed history, which I will narrate in some time. So the temple also is structured in a very interesting manner. The typical structure of Dravidian temples is that the Vigraham, the Divya Vigraham or the Linga Swarupam of Bhagavan will face east and Ambal will be on his left side or our right hand, you could say. Some temples have a placement where Bhagavan faces east, Ambal faces south. There can be some where Bhagavan faces east and Ambal is on Bhagavan's right side to indicate that Ambal can be sometimes more powerful than Swami in that particular kshetra. Some examples of where Bhagavan looks east and Ambal faces south is the famous Kapalishwara temple in Chennai, the Vaidiswaran Vaidanatha Swami near Nagapatnam. In some, Bhagavan faces east and Ambal is to his right. A very small example of that is Thiruvanaikovil, where Bhagavan is said to have performed the Tripura Samharam Leela. Bhagavan seldom faces west in any Tamil Nadu Koval. But when he does, he is said to be very powerful. So Vaidanatha Swami in Vaidiswaran Koval near Nagapatnam is a place where he faces west and Ambal faces south. But here, Bhagavan faces west, Ambal faces east. Almost as though they're observing each other. And the reason why this particular arrangement is here in this temple is because, as Bhagavan himself said, this is a Jnana Bhumi. So because it is a Jnana Bhumi where Bhagavan resides, it also becomes an Upadesha Sthalam. And Upadesha Sthalam is where Bhagavan will teach Ambal the secrets of Vedam, Vedantam and Advaita Jnanam. Few other examples where this very specific arrangement is there is Ayyarmalai near Trichy and also Uktavedishwarar in Kumbakonam district near a place called Mailadurai. The other interesting feature in this temple is that the gates to the temple or the gates to the innermost shrine reduce in size as one keeps going in, and it becomes so small that elephants cannot enter it beyond a certain point. This is a signature style of construction known as Madakkovil, which I will explain how this temple and many others in Tamil Nadu have this very specific style of construction. The Garbhagraham inside of this temple is always wet, as all the waters of the world, the Punya Kshetrams, Punya Tirthams of the world bubble up to help Ambal attain ritual purity so that she can perform her Nityakarma Pujas. From a perspective of yoga and yoga chakras, this temple is known as the Swadhisthana Chakra of the world. So we know the chakras of yoga, some of them, Manipuram, Swadhishthanam, Mooladharam, Ajnam, Sahasraram. The Swadhisthana Chakra, that is very close to the navel or the navel itself, some yoga texts posit, is said to be the Thiruvanaikovil, and in this exact place where Bhagavan's Sannadhi is there, is said to be the Swadhisthana Chakra itself. Another interesting fact about the outermost perimeter of this temple, it is known by the name the Vibhuti Prakara and the Tirunitru Madil. In Tamil, the Tirunitru Madil means the Vibhuti wall itself. And the Prakara is known by the name Vibhuti Prakara. Prakara refers to the geometrical space between, say, two parts of a temple like this, or say maybe like this. Why it has that name is also something that I will share in some time. There are two very unique puja vidhis in this temple. For Shiva, it is Shaivagama, as per the Agamas which he himself has given. And for Ambal Akhilandeshwari, it is the Srividya Agama. Srividya Agama is said to be a very powerful Agama which worships Devi in all her Divya Swarupam and all her powers. And it is that Srividya Agama which is used to worship Akhilandeshwari Ambal in this temple. And the Srividya Agama itself is also given by Jnanadata Maheshwaraha, who teaches it to his disciples and whose schools of thought we know today in the Srividya Sampradaya. So we have now seen the Divya Vigrahas of Swami and Ambal, and we have also seen the overall construction of this temple. The Itihasa and Purana of any Kshetra is always enriched when we come to know that Mahans have visited this temple, they have offered their prayers there, or Avatara Swarupams of Bhagavan have also visited this temple and offered their prayers there. The Padma Purana captures many of these aspects in detail. And in many kshetras across our country, even today, deities sometimes will disguise themselves as human beings to go and offer their prayers to Swami and Ambal. But in Thiruvanaikovil, Avatara Swarupas of Parabrahman have also visited it along with various Rishi Munis in their party, you could say. So, Prabhu Sri Ram, and after the war of Ramayana, when Bhagavan has slain Kumbhakarna and Ravana, everybody knows that Rama needs to attain mukti from the Brahmahatya dosham which he has committed by killing Ravana. So, everyone knows this story. Bhagavan Sri Ram is at the Setu and Sitamma constructs the Shivalinga which today is known by the name Ramanatheshwara. And Bhagavan, after performing the due puja punaskaras in that kshetra, begins to go back to Ayodhya. But there is a problem. Bhagavan has atoned for killing Ravana. He has not atoned for killing Kumbhakarna. So one dosham can be cleared, but another dosham still has to be cleared. And Bhagavan Sri Rama is Maryada Purusha. So he is going back to Ayodhya. He is unable to understand what does he need to do in order to let go of this additional dosha which is there on him. So as Bhagavan is walking up and he is walking towards Ayodhya, as he nears the outskirts of Gajaranya, he feels the Brahmahatya dosha of killing Kumbhakarna leave his body. And when he feels an incredible sense of lightness, he asks the rishis in his party, why has this feeling of bliss overcome me? And the rishis tell him that you are within 5 kroshas. Krosha is a measure of distance in the olden days. And they tell him, you are within 5 kroshas of Gajaranya, Thiruvanaikovil. And the mere proximity to Gajaranya itself rids one of all sins which is committed. So when Prabhu Sri Rama is so moved by this, he tells his entire party, we will make a detour. And we will go have darshan of Jambukeshwara and Akhilandeshwari over there. So, in order to rid himself of the remaining dosha, Prabhu Sri Rama tells Angada, who is part of the retinue, to bring a Shivalinga from a very specific place called Shaligrama. Shaligrama, everybody knows, in the Gandaki Valley in Nepal, but he brings a Shivalinga from Shaligrama itself. And when Angada brings it back, Prabhu Sri Rama prays to it, and then he establishes it inside of the Thiruvanaikovil Jambukeshwara Akhilandeshwari temple itself. And the entire retinue prays to Akhilandeshwari, Jambukeshwara, and Rama even composes shlokas and prayers to pray to Jambukeshwara and Akhilandeshwari. And all of this is captured in the Padma Purana. And after due puja and punaskara, Prabhu Sri Ram names it as Neela Harisha Natha, or it is also known by the name Neela Harisheshwara, and then continues onwards in his journey to Ayodhya. And after Prabhu Sri Rama visits this place, at another place in time, there are many Maharishis which also visit. Many of us know of the famous shlokas which is said for Guru Shishya Paramparas. So some of them would begin like say, Sadashiva Samarambham, Shankaracharya Madhyamam, Asminacharya Paryantam, Vande Guru Paramparam. Some would replace Sadashiva Samarambham with Lakshminatha Samarambham. Some would replace it with Sharadanatha Samarambham, and so on and so forth. But the Shankaracharya Sampradaya follows that shloka. There is another shloka which they follow, which says, the Advaita Sampradaya Shankaracharyas follows this and they say, Narayanam, Padmabhuvam, Vasishtham, Shakti, Putram, Parasharam Vyasam Shukam, Gaudapadam Mahantam, Govinda Yogindram Athasya Shishyam. So this is an entire Guru Shishya lineage which has continued since time immemorial. It begins with Narayana and then Padmabhuva. Padmabhuva is another name for Brahma. Then it is Vasishtha Maharishi. Then it is Vasishtha's son Shakti. Shakti's son Parashara. Parashara's son is Vedavyasa. After Vedavyasa it is Gaudapada. After Gaudapada it is the Acharya of Adishankaracharya Bhagavad Pada himself, Govindacharya. And this link between this Sampradaya and Thiruvanaikovil begins with Vasishtha Maharishi. Due to an unfortunate incident, Vasishtha's son Shakti. So in my shloka I had said, Vasishtham Shakti Chadas Putra Parashara. Shakti, who is the son of Vasishtha Maharishi, dies a very untimely death, and his grandson Parashara is born. This is the same Parashara who is the master of astrology, and this is the same Parashara who is the father of Vedavyasa Maharishi. So when Parashara completes his formal education, he learns from his grandfather that his father died due to an attack by a Rakshasa. So Parashara then comes to Thiruvanaikovil, Gajaranyam, and he offers the Pindadanam and the funeral rites for his father. And after offering the funeral rites there, his father Shakti attains Shivaloka. And Parashara is angry. The anger of a rishi is said to be very, very powerful. Parashara decides that he will avenge his father's death, and he immediately begins a yajna into which all the Rakshasas in the world start falling into it. Now, as this yaga goes on, many Rakshasas have fallen, and there is a great heap of bones which are there on the side. And as this goes on, one of the Ashtadikpalakas, the Ashtadikpalakas are said to be the 8 directions and the 8 lords of each of those directions. So for the east, we have Indra. For the southeast, we have Agni. For the south, we have Yama, and so on and so forth. The Dikpalaka of the southwestern direction is known by the name Nirriti. Nirriti is also known by the name Naravahana. So the Nara also happens to be a Rakshasa. Nirriti and his Vahana are both getting dragged into this yaga by Parashara. If Nirriti and his Vahana fall into this yaga, then there is no Dikpalaka out of the 8, and that will cause a great imbalance into the world. And as they are falling, they realize that they are going to fall into a yaga kundam. They have absolutely no respite. In their immediate fear, they see that this is Gajaranyam, and Nirriti immediately composes a shloka and he says, Sharvakhilanda Ramanisha Vibhodayabde. That is the Ramana of Akhilandeshwari. And you are the Dayaman over here. Jambu Pate Mayi Nidhehi Kripa Kataksham. Cast your glance towards me so that I will survive and I will not die. And this one shloka is enough to get Swami and Ambal come running into this yaga. And inside of the Yagashala, they do not appear in their Mula Swarupam. They are in the disguise of an old Brahmana and a Brahmana Patni. And they have just made their way inside of this Yagashala. Immediately, shouting above the Yajna mantras, Bhagavan shouts, Varam Dehi, give me a boon. And this is very rare because Bhagavan does not ask for boons. Bhagavan is the one who gives varas. But there is a very interesting aspect here. When a great yajna takes place, when any individual enters the yajna-shala, he has the right to ask for a vara, and that vara will be granted to him. So Parashara is very surprised, and he says, Varam Bruhi, ask for your vara. And Bhagavan immediately says, let this yajna come to an end. You have given your father Shivaloka Prapti, you have killed many Rakshasas, but innocent ones must not die. Bhagavan is also Sarveshwara. Bhagavan is also Bhuteshwara. Every single living being and living spirit goes to him for refuge. How can he let go of those who have taken refuge in him? So Parashara realizes through his yogic vision that this is Swami and Ambal. And he immediately ends this yagam, offers his namaskaram to them, and Swami and Ambal disappear from there. But Parashara later realizes that the initial objective of his yajna was incorrect. And now he must perform prayaschitta for that. One observant, very observant Maharishi has always says that in the Puranas, in the Itihasas, nobody, not even Bhagavan, can escape karma. If Bhagavan has committed an action or he has committed to his devotee, he must uphold it. Because Bhagavan's name is also Satyamurti, Dharmamurti. So Bhagavan must also uphold his word to his devotees. And Parashara, when he realizes that I have committed a grave sin, Parashara also installs a Shivalinga inside of the temple. And that Shivalinga is known by the name Paschatapeshwara, and a sign of regret for having attempted to take the lives of his fellow living beings, not human beings, fellow living beings. And that is established also inside of the Thiruvanaikovil temple complex. We have all heard of the shloka, Shri Ranga Mangalanidhim Karuna Nivasam. That is, in Sri Ranga, which is where Narayana himself manifests. Now, along the same island where Gajaranyam is, a little further to the west, is the temple of Ranganatha Swami. Some of us may know how he took residence here in Sri Rangam, that there is a particular school of thought which says that Ranganatha, in this form, is said to be the Kuladevata of Bhagavan Sri Rama. So when Vibhishana witnesses the coronation of Rama in Ayodhya, Sri Rama asks Vibhishana, what do you want? And Vibhishana says, give me your Kuladevata Vigraham which you pray to every day. And Prabhu Sri Rama is very Dayavan. He is Daya Sagara. He is the ocean of compassion and mercy. So Sri Ram says, okay, you can take him and go towards Lanka. So as Vibhishana is bringing this Vigraham of Ranganatha back towards Lanka, as destiny would have it, Vibhishana has to perform his Nitya Karmas. And he is carrying a great idol of Ranganatha Swami. He has to keep it down, but nobody can hold it. So he finds a little boy there and he tells the little boy, hold this for me while I come back after performing my Nitya Karmas. And the boy agrees. So Vibhishana is performing his Nitya Karmas. The boy has kept the idol down and he has walked away. So the Vigraha, Divya Vigraha of Ranganatha, which is the Kuladevata of Sri Rama given to Vibhishana, has not gone back to Sri Lanka. It has been placed in Sri Rangam in Gajaranya's Dvipa and cannot be moved at all. And Vibhishana is now very sad. This was his intention to take this back to his desham, but he cannot do that. He refuses to eat food, he refuses to drink water, and he just lies down next to the Vigraham. And we know Vibhishana also because of a very interesting shloka which is said for Chiranjeevis, which is said, Ashwathama Balir Vyasaha Hanumamscha Vibhishanaha Kripa Parashuramascha Saptaite Chiranjeevinaha Saptaitam Smaren Markandeya Thamashtamam Jeeved Varshatam Sopi Sarvavyadhi Vivarjitaha. That is to remember Ashwathama, Mahabali, Vyasaha, Hanuman, Vibhishana, Kripa, Parashurama and Markandeya is said to give good health, freedom from ailments and illnesses and 100 years of long and healthy life. So an upset Vibhishana sleeps next to the Vigraham which was placed by that little boy. That little boy, I will narrate who that is later. Some of you may know already, but I will share that later. So Vibhishana is then woken up by Mahavishnu, who comes in his Sakshat Swarupam. And he tells Vibhishana that this was his Leela, that he wishes to stay here. And he says, I want to be close to my sister. So Ambal is also known by the name Padmanabha Sahodari. That is she who is the sister of Padmanabha. And Narayana goes on to further say that there is no Tirtham greater than Jambu Tirtham inside of Thiruvanaikovil. There is no Kshetram greater than Gajaranyam. There is no God equal to Jambupati. There is no mantra equal to Panchaksharam. There is no greater devotee for him than me. Let me be here. I will continue looking south towards Lanka and I will always bless you. So Vibhishana then offers his prostrations to Ranganatha and then to Swami and Ambal and he goes back to Lanka. Every Vaikuntha Ekadashi, when the Moksha Dwara in Sri Rangam opens, Vibhishana crosses that Moksha Dwaram to take darshan of Ranganatha. And in the same Pradosham 2 days later, Vibhishana will be in Jambukeshwara Rakhilandeshwari Thiruvanaikovil temple. And the Advaitam school of thought beautifully posits Shiva and Vishnu as one, with no distinctions between them. Which is what Ranganatha also reminds Vibhishana, that there is no bhedam between Hari and Hara. It is Hari Hara Abhedam, and asks him to return to Sri Lanka. And the Advaitam school of thought says Shiva and Vishnu are two forms of the same mother. The same mother teaches, the same mother cleans, the mother is the same, the duties are different, God is just a mother. One of the Ashta Dikpalakas and the Lord Guardian of the western direction is Varuna, the god of the cosmic waters. After worshipping Bhagavan in Kashi and in Thiruvannamalai, Varuna is instructed to worship Bhagavan at Gajaranyam, Thiruvanaikovil. And after worshipping Bhagavan at Gajaranyam, Varuna finally achieves the Dikpalaka status. And among all the rivers in our subcontinent, the Padma Puranam captures a shloka, a 7-day bath in the Ganges, a 3-day bath in the Yamuna, one glance at the Kaveri, all have the same punya. This very Kaveri, along with all the other rivers and water bodies of the world, bubble up within the Garbhagraham of the temple of Thiruvanaikovil to worship Bhagavan. And while Bhagavan is said to hold the Ganga in his locks, Bhagavan had held it for a year and released it on the request of Bhagiratha. The same Ganga later goes to a place called Thiruvannaikalam near Kumbakonam to seek release from the sins of everyone who is taking a dip in her. So it is said that 99.9% of her powers actually reside in Thiruvannaikalam, and the 0.1% is said to be in the Ganges that we see in North India today. Now, Ganga also wants a very exalted position and association with Bhagavan. So, Ganga comes to this temple, prays to Shiva, and when her prayers are fulfilled, Bhagavan asks Ganga, what do you want? And Ganga says, let me remain in your jata forever. And that is why Bhagavan gets the name Gangadharam. Because Bhagavan had let the locks go once and Ganga escaped, Ganga now goes back to reside in his locks and Bhagavan takes the name Gangadhara. An enduring image associated with Gajaranyam is this image of Ambal worshipping Bhagavan, an elephant and a spider. So we have now seen all this time Avatara Rupams of Bhagavan worshipping Swami and Ambal. We have seen Maharishis worship Swami and Ambal. We have seen rivers worship Swami and Ambal. Bhagavan is Pashupati, so all animals also worship him. So in this image, one sees an elephant and a spider worship him. So this has a very interesting backstory. In Kailasha, there are two Shivaganas, Malayavan and Pushpadanta. Both of them are great devotees of Shiva. One day they get into an argument. I am the greater devotee of Shiva. No, I am the greater devotee of Shiva. Eventually, the conversation becomes very heated. Malayavan curses Pushpadanta and tells him, you will take birth on the earth as an elephant. And Pushpadanta also speaks back to him and tells him, you will be born on the earth as a spider. So both of them have cursed each other. And they are now born on the earth. They are born in the earth, but they do not forget their Shiva Bhakti. So, the spider in Thiruvanaikovil would create spider webs around the Shivalingam to make sure no leaf, no foreign particle, or no dirt or dust will fall on Bhagavan. The elephant would spray water on the Shivalinga and offer it a lot of flowers. So every day, this cycle would go on. But the spider and the elephant do not know that this is happening. So when the spider realizes that somebody has poured a lot of water on this Shivalinga, removed my spider webs and put flowers, so the spider will take the effort to remove everything and build spider webs around the Shivalinga all over again. The elephant will come to do its puja later and then see that there are spider webs here, it is very dirty. So the elephant will remove the spider webs and spray water on it and offer flowers. This keeps going for a very long time. And one day, the spider and the elephant finally spot each other. The spider stings the elephant to death because the elephant dies out of poison, and the elephant tramples on the spider. And this Leela is being seen in Kailasham. And Ambal intervenes and tells Bhagavan, these are your devotees, these are your bhaktas, these are your Shivaganas. Show your anugraham to them, be a little kind to them. And then Bhagavan shows his Swarupam to both of these Shivaganas and asks them, your devotion has pleased me so much. Tell me what you want. So the elephant is smart. The elephant says, this entire kshetram should be known by my name. So that is why the kshetram gets the name Gajaranyam. And in Tamil we know it as Thiruvanaikovil. The spider is smarter because someone else has gone before him, he will go second. So the spider says, let me be reborn as a human being and I will build many temples for you. And Bhagavan says, okay, tathastu, you are my devotees, this is your ask. I am Ashutoshi, so I will give you everything you need. So the spider is now reborn as a very famous king in the Raghuvamsa Suryakula Chola Sampradaya. And before the spider has taken rebirth, there is a king known by the name Shubhadeva Chola. Shubhadeva Chola and his queen are expecting a child. And suddenly, the court astrologers, every Raja has a set bevy of court astrologers. The court astrologers come running into the delivery room and tell the queen that, Rajmata, if you delay giving birth to your child by one muhurtam or 48 minutes, as per modern horological standards, your child who will be born will conquer the world. And the queen readies herself and says, okay, I will do everything I can to wait for 48 minutes because you have told me so. So the Rajmata ties her feet and hangs herself upside down. She waits for the muhurtam to end. And when the muhurtam ends, she asks her attendants to bring her down and she gives birth to a son. And as she gives birth to the son, she sees that the son's eyes are red. And she looks at him and in Tamil she says, Kochan Kanno, that is red-eyed one. And this Chakravarti gets the name Sonaksha Chola or Kochenkanna Chola. He is also sometimes known as Raktanetra Chola because of his red eyes. Now this is the spider. The spider asked for the second wish, did not ask first. So now the spider is reborn as Kochenkanna Chola or Sonaksha Chola. This spider has a very interesting thing. Reborn as the son of a king, he has Jati Smara or Punarjanma Smarana. So he remembers that he was a spider in his previous lifetime. So as he begins his life, he remembers his devotion, but he also remembers his enmity with that elephant. So after Sonaksha's consecration, he begins to conquer vast territories and he becomes Sarvabhauma Chakravarti. That is, he is the Chakravarti of the world. And now he begins to build Shiva temples. Across the length and breadth of Tamil Nadu, he builds a lot of them. But the very peculiar and interesting feature of these temples is that he makes it so small that an elephant cannot enter. And this very interesting, peculiar style of temples is known as Madakkovil, where it is easy for human beings like us to enter and exit, but not for an elephant. And Sonaksha Chola's Ishtadevata also happens to be Jambukeshwara and Akhilandeshwari. And Sonaksha Chola then realizes that this is my Ishtadevata. I must do something to build this temple. And he invests a great number of resources to do that. Now, during this construction of this temple, there is a very interesting event which takes place. There is a certain part of the temple which is not in the master plan of Sonaksha Chola. So there are some workers over there. There is an unknown foreman supervising the construction over there. And these workers do not collect the usual ration of what are rewarded. So this part of the temple which is being constructed is known as the Vibhuti Prakaram. And the wall which is built adjoining this Prakaram is known as the Tirunitra Madil, that is the Vibhuti wall. The workers for this part of the temple are given only Vibhuti as their daily wages. But when these workers take this Vibhuti and go back home, they find gold, they find gems, they find food, they find everything they need. So Bhagavan usually helps human beings to perform their tasks. But in this specific case, Bhagavan himself comes and performs a task along with the human being. Various visitors to this temple, like I said, Bhagavan's Avatara Swarupams have come, rivers have come, Rishi Munis have come, Bhagavan comes in a Gupta Swarupam, kings have come. Adisankara also visits this temple. And he had visited this between the 6th and 5th century before Common Era. In the first 16 years of his life, Adisankara Bhagavatpada completes the studies of the Vedas, Brahma Sutras, Itihasas, Puranas, and so on. In the next 16 years of his life, he travels around the length and breadth of the country, either doing Navanirmanam of shrines which are already there, or Punarnirmanam of them as well. So when Bhagavatpada reaches Gajaranyam, the devotees in the Kshetra go and petition him. And they tell him that Ambal's Divya Vigraha is very powerful. And they say, and he asks, how powerful is it? They say that when the priest opens the front-facing door of Ambal, her energy is so much that he falls down unconscious. And he can only be revived 15 to 30 minutes later. And Adisankara Bhagavatpada understands this. That Ambal's Divya Vigraham gives off so much energy that it needs to be channelized in the right manner. So Bhagavatpada instructs the construction of a separate shrine outside of the immediate pragaram, in the pragaram behind Ambal, of Valli Devasena Sameta Subramanya, one son behind him. Adisankara Bhagavatpada also asks for the construction of earrings which have the Sri Chakram engraved in them. And Adisankara also asks for a Mahameru, the three-dimensional form of the Sri Chakra, also to be made. But despite all of these constructions and efforts, Ambal is still so powerful that Bhaktas would find it very difficult to stand in front of her. And Bhagavatpada finally says, within the immediate line of sight of Ambal, build a Vigraha of Prasanna Ganapati. Mother, after all, the first sight when it falls on her child, she will immediately smile and be happy. So after these three constructions or these three things being set up, Ambal's Vigraham finally bestows bountiful blessings to its devotees. And that is why in the Adi Shankaracharya Ashtottara Shatanamavali, one of the names for Bhagavatpada is Sri Chakratmaka Tatanka Poshitamba Manorathaya Namaha. That means salutation to him who has constructed this Sri Chakra earrings, which are an abharana for Ambal herself. So we have seen holy men, Maharishis, Avatara Swarupams of Bhagavan. There also come poets and saints which are associated with this temple. One of the festivals in Thiruvanaikovil is where Ambal is seen holding tambulam, which we say in Tamil as Pettalapak, or pan, that we would say in Hindi and other languages. And a flavored betel leaf is placed in her hand on her Utsava Murti. The story behind that Utsavam takes us to a poet, and the poet's name is Kalamegam. Before he had the name Kalamegam, he was known by the name Varadan. Varadan was a cook in the Sri Rangam temple. And this is a time where the schisms between the Shaiva Sampradayam and the Vaishnava Sampradayam are very broad and distant. Varada had fallen in love with a Shaivite girl. And as is the case in all love stories, there will be secret meetings, there will be meetings in places where nobody can be seen. So one day, or rather one night, they agree to meet in the Akhilandeshwari temple to continue their romance and continue their conversations. Varadan is in one corner of the temple near Akhilandeshwari Ambal. His paramour is in a different corner of the temple and is lost. It is dark. So Varadan thinks, I've been waiting for my beloved, she is not here, I will sit here. And he waits. In another corner inside the same Ambal enclosure, there is a Sri Vidya Upasaka who has been doing Kathora Tapasya of Akhilandeshwari Ambal to receive her blessings. Ambal in this temple is not a Sumangali. She is in a Kanya Rupa. That is, she is a woman before she gets married. So Ambal appears in front of this Upasaka in the form of a Kanya. And she tells this Upasaka, I have come to give you Thambulam. The Sri Vidya Upasaka is so busy in his meditation, he tells her, no, go away. I don't know who you are. I don't want to speak to you. I am busy in my devotion towards Ambal, so you go away. The Upasaka has told Ambal to go away. Now Ambal walks towards Varada. Ambal knows this is Varada. Varada does not know this is Ambal. Varada thinks this is his lover who has found her way over here. So Ambal tells Varada, open your mouth. Varada thinks, okay, I have finally met my paramour and we will continue our conversations. Varada opens his mouth. Ambal places the Tambula Prasadam inside of his mouth. And as she does this, she bestows upon him the gift of Jnanam and Vaksiddhi. And Varadan realizes this blessing and becomes a poet beyond compare and is then known by the name Kamalaalayam. His poetry develops all of the properties and qualities that a Tambula Kavalam will have. So it will be sweet, it will have tinges of poetic brilliance, but because in Tambula Kavalam there is also an ingredient called Chunnambu, that is calcium, it will also have an astringent taste. So Kamalaalayam composes his poems in the same way. Sweet, great to hear, but there will be a pun, there will be sarcasm, and he devotes these prayers to Bhagavan in all his workbooks. So Varada realizes that he is now this great poet. So he walks towards Jambu, he looks at him and tells him, one devotee threw stones on you. One devotee kicked you. One devotee hit you with his bow. So one devotee threw stones on him is one of the saints in the Shaiva Siddhanta Sampradaya in Tamil Nadu who would worship Shiva by throwing a stone at a Shivalinga every day. And when the devotee missed one day, Shiva will come in his dream and remind him, you did not worship me by throwing your stone. So the other one is the one who kicked him. Kannappa Nayanar keeps his foot on the Shivalinga so that he remembers when he removes his second eye, he knows where to place it. The third devotee hits him with his bow. Arjuna does not know Bhagavan is in the form of a hunter, so he calls him low caste hunter, low caste hunter, low caste hunter 3 times and he smacks him with his bow. So Kalamegha's poem has this context and he says, one devotee throws stones on you, one devotee kicks you, one devotee hits you with his dhanush. And you are so troubled by your wife that do you have to go and drink poison also? And these are his poems, these are his continued poems in every temple that he visits. He later goes to a temple called Thiruvanaikovil, where there is a very famous Vigraha of Narayana. The town folk know that Kalamegha was once a Vaishnava, he has become a Shaiva, and they tell him, you are not allowed entry into the town or the temple. So Kalamegha stands outside. And he is angry because he wants to have darshan of Bhagavan. And then he looks at Mahavishnu in the direction of the temple and tells him, I am greater than you. And he weeps. And he says, I am greater than you because you have 10 avatars. Mahavishnu has 10 avatars, it is a known fact. Parameshwara has no avatars. I have infinite avatars. I will be born again and again. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. And he says, if you want me to praise myself further, tell me. And then Mahavishnu tells the priest inside the temple, open the doors, let him come and have darshan now. So he then visits various temples throughout the length and breadth of Tamil Nadu, composing various prayers and shlokas such as these. Sweet, poetic wit, and also astringent at the same time. In one of the temples, he refers to Mahavishnu as the arrow that eats mud. The exact phrase in Tamil is Man Tindra Bhanam. For many of us, we would not understand it the first time. But the exact reason for using this is because when Parameshwara goes to destroy Tripura and Tripurasuras, Mahavishnu becomes the arrow in the Pinaka bow. So he says Man Tindra Bhanam, and he is unable to complete his poem because he passes away. So another great set of poets finally come who are known as Retta Kulavargal. So there is one poet who does not have vision, there is one poet who cannot walk. So the blind man hoists the lame person on his shoulders and they walk around temples. And when they see the last rites of Kalamegha being performed, they say, Mantindra Bhanama Solravar Inniki Poi Niruppu Tingarde. That is, he who said the mud-eating bow is now being eaten by Agni as his life has come to an end. So this is the great thing about Samadarshis and great souls. They exist at the same wavelength and the same frequency almost every single time. So much for people, so much for Rupams of Bhagavan, so much to say, so little time. But in a great place like Trichy and Srirangam, there are various shrines in and around the city and town. Most important is also, of course, Ranganatha Swami in Srirangam on the same island itself. There is a Samaypuram Mariamma temple. There is the Tayumanava or Matrubhuteshwara in the Uchipalya temple. So the little boy who had placed Vidishana's idol and ran away was Ganesha. And Ganesha is on top of a large hill in Trichy, which is known as Malaikottai or Rockford, and he is known by the name Uchipillaya. That means the Ganesha who is at the summit. There is also a very interesting temple called as Uttamakovil, where Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva, all three of them exist within the same premises. And there are various more ones in and around Trichy, in and around Jambu. There are various famous songs, prayers and festivals when it comes to Jambukeshwara and Akhilandeshwari. The most famous ones are of course Jambu Pate by Muthuswami Dikshidhar, Akhilandeshwari Rakshamam and Akhilandeshwari Namaste, also by Muthuswami Dikshidhar. Adisankara Bhagavad-pada also composed the Akhilandeshwari Mantra Pushpamala. That is, for every single akshara in the Sanskrit Devanagari Vedic language, he narrates each and every name of Ambal in that manner. And it is also known as the Akhilandeshwari Panchashati, or the 500 names of Akhilandeshwari. There is also the Jambunathashtakam, which is composed by Sridhar Ayyavad, another very famous saint associated with Tamil Nadu. There are various Tamil prayers known as Devarams or Devaharam or the Garland of Bhagavan, which is dedicated to Shiva by Saivite saints. And in the Panguni Masam, that is the Meena Masam, Brahma comes to perform the holy marriage between Jambukeshwara and Akhilandeshwari. Like I mentioned in my narration earlier, Akhilandeshwari is Kanya Rupam, she is not Sumangali Rupam. So the Kalyanotsvam or the Brahmotsvam of this temple takes place in the Meena Masa Mandalam or the Panguni Masa Mandalam. These are some examples of some very beautiful sculptures within the temple, spread across multiple acres. This is large, some of them are, you could say, are almost 3D. Some saints and rishis will also posit that this first image is very symbolic of the human body itself, because this is close to being the brain, this is the spinal cord, this is the Amritam inside of the human body which Bhagavan wants us to drink. In Muthuswami Dikshidhar's Kriti, Jambu Pate, he prays to Bhagavan and tells him, Nijananda Amritabodham Dehi. That is, give me the nectar of self-realization and Advaitam. And it is that which manifests over here in the form of a lingam in this very sculpture. There is also a Somaskanda sculpture which is there in the temple, and also Chandrabaudishwara, or say this is a form of Bhagavan and Ambal, which is known by the name Chandrasekhara. Bhagavan is standing with an axe and a deer in hand, Abhayavarada Hastam, and Ambal is present with two hands in front of him. If there are a few things that I would like to leave you all with at the end of the presentation, then I would perhaps like to share three things that I have enjoyed contemplating over while I have done my research for this one. The first is the concept of Vedanta Jnanam, which defines this kshetra. It is known by the name Jnana Bhumi. And in one of Swami and Ambal's Leelas, Swami decides to give darshan to Brahma as Ambal. And Ambal decides to give darshan to Brahma in the form of Swami. And this is to show that there is no distinction between Swami and Ambal. Advaitam, non-duality, they are one and the same. And Brahma realizes this Leela and he realizes this is the Veda Vedanta Saram. This is the essence of all the Vedas, Itihasas and Puranas. The second is around Jambu Maharishi. Whenever we take a sankalpam to perform prayers or certain actions, we do a date and time stamp when we say the sankalpa. We would start by saying Mamopata, Samasta, Duridakshay Bhara, and when we say the place, we say Bharata Khande. And before Bharata Khande comes Bharata Varsham. Before Bharata Varsham comes Jambu Dvipam. This entire landmass is known as Jambu Dweepam because it is the Upakaram and Tapas of Jambu Maharishi, which is what gives this entire Dweepam the name Jambu Dweepam itself. And the last thing that I would like to leave you all with is the Karunyam of Bhagavan. Water as an element does not stay still. It needs to be kept in a structure to be kept still. Otherwise, it continuously moves. So when Muthuswami Dikshidhar composed the Jambupate Kriti, he uses very interesting analogies with water and also with Vedantam and Advaitam. So the element of water we know cools our bodies. The heat and the pain of our bodies are cooled by water. The heat and the pain in our hearts can be calmed by Bhagavan only. The nectar of knowledge of the self, or Nijananda Amrita Bodham, is something which only Bhagavan can give. The one who can be a friend to us in distress is also Bhagavan. Sharanagata Vatsalartha Bandho. So in the Muthuswami Dikshidhar Kriti, he refers to him as Sharanagata Vatsalartha Bandho. That is a friend during times of distress who will treat us very affectionately when we are sad. And the one who can be tenderly affectionate during all times of distress is also Bhagavan. All of this is done by water, and all of this is also done by Bhagavan in this Sutra. Which is why, when Dikshidhar continues praising Bhagavan, he refers to him as Hridaya Tapopasha Mana. That is, one who cools or puts out the torment of the heart and the mind. And Sharanagata Vatsalartha Bandho. That is the tenderly affectionate one who is the refuge and is a friend of the distress. And it is with these phrases in Sanskrit that I would like to bring my presentation to an end. It has been the Anugraham of Bhagavan and the blessings of elders that has given me the opportunity to share a little bit about his Leela in detail with all of us. I humbly seek forgiveness from the members in this Sabha for any errors or shortcomings on my part. And let us all jointly place this humble offering at the lotus feet of Jagannatha Akhilandeshwari Sameta Swadhisthana Chakranayaka Jambukeshwara. And I hope and pray that the Nijananda Amrita Bodham, that is the blissful nectarine knowledge of the self, is given to all of us by Bhagavan. Aparada sahasrani hyapi kurvane mai prasidamba Akhilanda Devi Karuna Varashe Jambukesha Punyate Gopika Jivana Smaranam Govinda Govinda Paranama Parvati Pataye Mahadev.
It's really such a wonderful exposition.
Thank you.
Thank you, Srisha. Would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, I will speak. Thank you. Thanks. I don't think it's very appropriate that I should be speaking because he's the star of the show. But nevertheless, I'll steal some of his limelight. Okay. With your permission, Girish, can I add a few more words and concepts of what you said? I will elaborate on what you just said. See, it's one thing we just heard from Girish was this is also a Swadhisthana Sthalam. Okay, so let's also understand a little about Swadhisthana as a chakra. He also used the word Akhila Andeshwari. Anda means egg, okay, and that is also womb. Hiranyagarbham, for example. So, Swadhisthana is also, the element of Swadhisthana is water. Okay, that's water. Okay, so Muladharam is earth, Swadhisthana is water, Manipuragam is fire because that's the digestive area, and then you have the Anahatam, which is your air, and then Vishuddhi, which cleans up, and then finally the knowledge, which is beyond the elements. Okay. So now why it's water? So that's very important because that's the area physically is the procreation spot. for both you men and women. That's where your garbham is, and that's where your viryam is. And both of them are water. Garbham is essentially water. The egg has water. So that's the also one more significance of Swadhisthana, and that's why it's filled with water. So that's I just wanted to add that.
Very well. Thank you.
Thank you. Now the other point is I'm so impressed that we all would say that okay at this age and at this kind of a generation, Girish is doing. But honestly, if I may say, actually I'm not surprised. You know why? Because this generation is like that. He belongs to a generation which goes to the depth of anything that they want to do. And they also are, it's very, if I have any regret, I would be, regret is I was not born in this generation. Okay. They have the information, they know how to marshal information, and they also go to the root. And that's what he's doing. And they would also like to do things which are unusual. Unusual for many people, but it's not unusual that way, because actually this is not unusual. This is actually usual, which we lost. For us it is unusual, but that is actually the usual. That was day to day, every time. And today it is unusual for us. We don't even understand. It's actually is right. It's a brain and then a spinal cord, and then the inside is what we call as Manonmani. Mana ul mani. Esasthana ivavalambate se indrayoni yatrasho kesha vivartante. You know that slogan?
I have heard of this. Yeah, quite some time.
That's part of Taittiriya Upanishad. So it describes Manonmani. Esasthana like that sthanam is like inverted sthanam, that tongue, and then from that point to that in between that center is Manonmani. So that Shiva Lingam is the position of Manonmani.
Is it the pineal gland?
Pineal gland. Perfect. Pineal gland. Manonmani. So some more added information. So now, honestly, that's what as I said, I'm not surprised because I've seen my daughter as well. She just goes into that. They are all kind of same generation. And one very important aspect about this generation. I want to praise your generation. Sorry, and you're one rep of that. Okay, one of the many reps, indeed. I'm not belittling you, but everyone of your generation is like you.
I completely disagree because this generation particularly, finding somebody like Girish, it's a very
No, but no. That's why I said it.
I would like
You
to
may,
justify my
yeah.
statement
Mm.
because definitely they may have information, everything, but what they bring along as when they're born, I think they assimilate all that and how they use the information. It's so important because
Correct. That's right. That's
how
why I said no.
very few of such
No, but that.
so you are a
No, but the point here is they go. That's what I said. They go to the root. Okay. So I would compare with my generation, maybe Murali's generation. We were possibly not that deep in our analysis. Okay, so that's how they are. So, and very importantly, they also respect elders. I've seen that. Where you respect elders, they respect elders' views. It's not like I would compare it with my generation. We were not possibly like that. Okay. We would write. I would avoid my father talking to me now. You're not like that. I saw you even falling at his feet. So this is very, very interesting. And what's very important is that you're also part of the revival of Sanatana Dharma. And as I said, Dharma Rakshati, Rakshita, the one who protects Dharma, Dharma protects that person. So It's a paradox. It's a okay. Dharma protects a person who protects dharma. So it is both ways. Now you are one of them. That's very, very important. That's because today we are seeing a lot of these kind of very unfortunate events that are happening, and then at the same time there is a revival of our roots, our culture, our heritage, in a very proud about ourselves. I remember probably when I was in Delhi, I was very hesitant wearing a dhoti. Especially in Amniavatam, we would wear this dhoti, and then I would go with a pant and then wear it at the last minute because I was very conscious about it. But that's not the case anymore. Okay, and this is a revival, and this generation, and Girish is definitely one very prominent, and he is also one of the forerunners in that revival. I would really say that. So it's important, to have that revival, and especially when we see that so much of is happening around, and it is important that we get back to that, because we all along, I wouldn't want to belittle anything or anyone here, but we always used to have a Western way, or what we probably Ham way, and now we have In way. So Vishwa Guru or whatever, that's the way, Indian way. And Indian way is actually secular. Please understand this word, because we are secular ab initio. That's the way we are. We are pluralistic. We are already pluralistic. He spoke about Vinayaka, he spoke about Vishnu, he spoke about, include in that, also Jesus, you include, Allah or Muhammad, peace be upon him. So it's pluralistic. We are inherently pluralistic. We are inherently secular. We don't have to tom about it. We don't have to prove that, that we are secular. And that's very, very nice about it. And I'm so glad that I spent this evening with you. And thanks a lot. And, thanks to everyone here. And that's about it. Thank you.